the Great British Manufacturing Podcast, brought to you by MTD, MFG and Jefferson.
Hello and welcome to the Great British Manufacturing Podcast. On this week's show, we will review the latest positive news in the British manufacturing sector and welcome a very special guest. Shane Kelly, the professional racing driver for the University of Wolverhampton Racing. My name is Joe Reynolds and joining me as always is my co-host Stuart Whitehead. Before we get started with the show, I just want to mention the Factory Now platform. Factory Now new members are joining the platform every week, which has been launched to help British manufacturers boost sales, collaborate and reshore. Members include Atlas Copco, the leading manufacturer for tooling and industrial assembly solutions, and Telford-based Protolabs, the world's fastest digital manufacturing source for custom prototypes and low-volume parts. Stuart, welcome. Are you enjoying this weather?
Absolutely, Joe. We've got some very good news as well to cheer people up as well, so looking forward to it.
Yep, Ball Corporation. They're set to build a new factory. This one's all about aluminium cans, Stu.
Yeah, absolutely. So American-owned Ball Corporation, one of the world's leading manufacturers of recyclable aluminium packaging, has announced plans to build a new production facility in Kettering. The new aluminium can manufacturing plant will be Ball's third facility of its type in the UK, adding capacity to its established plants in Milton Keynes and Wakefield. Once operational, the factory will produce billions of pounds a year across a range of formats and sizes, and a multi-million-pound investment is expected to create around 200 jobs.
I find it incredible. Obviously, we're going away from plastics now, and people are using aluminium even more. I stopped in a hotel not so long ago, and instead of being a bottle of water, it was a tin can of still water. It just felt weird, but evidently it's easier to recycle and cheaper to recycle aluminium than it is plastic.
Absolutely, and I think that's people are. We talked before about sustainable manufacturing and sustainable packaging and so forth, and I think consumers are a lot more circumspect about the type of packaging that they're buying, so hence the need for another factory from Ball.
Yeah, and the next story, Alexander Dennis have secured another large export order. We talk about ADL a lot on the podcast, and yet again, it's another massive order.
Absolutely, Falkirk-based company and partner BYD, and they've signed a framework agreement with the National Transport Authority of Ireland for the delivery of up to 200 Enviro 200 EV electric buses. Initial firm order for 45 buses has been agreed at the same time, with delivery commencing next year. It's the partnership's largest order for zero-emission buses in the country to date, with all buses set to be built at firm factories in the UK. And as you say, it's been a great year for Alexander Dennis. They are Britain's biggest manufacturer. They recently won a huge German export order and also announced plans to reshore electric bus chassis production. Yeah,
a real success story, aren't they? Absolutely. So the next one I want to talk about is the UK Battery Industrialisation Centre, or UKBIC as probably we'll call them moving forward. Yeah. But, it's officially open now, and if I'm correct, basically it's an R&D centre and they're trying to reduce the time it takes to get a product to market for OEMs.
Absolutely, and I think this is one of the stories that you covered on GB News this week, Joe, and so if you haven't seen the GB News clip with Joe, I'd strongly recommend you watch that. So yes, Boris Johnson opened this officially before he went into self-isolation. It's a new £130 million facility. It's in Coventry. It's been developed to support UK industry with the development of battery technologies for future electrification. And as you said before, this will help the country achieve its climate change targets and also support the automotive sector as it prepares for an end of the sale of petrol and diesel vehicles by 2030. UKBIC can be used by any organisation working on batteries for electric vehicles, rail, aerospace, domestic equipment, energy storage, who will benefit from finding out whether their advanced technologies can be scaled up successfully before committing to the huge investment required for mass production. So, it really is the missing link between gigafactories and small-scale inventors and developers, which historically the UK has been very good at, and people complain that we don't always scale up our technologies. So hopefully this will solve that problem.
Yeah, I find this one particularly interesting because you imagine these massive superstructures, these gigaplants, all the R&D it goes into producing the battery, to a certain extent, I'm sure chemical engineers would argue, but there's going to be a lot of shared IP in this technology. I really do think so. It's not like the combustion engine. There'll be a lot of shared IP. So why not go to facilities like this and maybe take on someone else's know-how? But at this stage, let's take a break from the positive manufacturing news. There's lots more to come. But I'd like to introduce Shane Kelly, the professional racing driver of UWR. Shane, welcome to the podcast.
How you doing? You all right?
Yeah, great to catch up. Just to kick it off, can you tell us a little bit about your career to date and your current role and responsibilities, please?
My career to date, I suppose, is very blurry when you look back after a long time, sort of 20 years in car racing. So that's, it's hard to think back and how it started and how I ended up in education racing. I think it's knowledge over the years of running my own teams, winning championships, and readying myself to even step into a career to race cars and sort of mentor students on engineering into race teams, into industry. So I think I've come in confidently carrying that knowledge. I think that's where I sort of ended up in education, I suppose.
Yeah, and just on that point, give us an overview of the University of Wolverhampton University / racing.
So we're about 6 years old now. Is a motorsport engineering course. It's not just motorsport engineering at Telford. It's a range of different engineering disciplines, right through to chemical to motorsport, as we'll probably mention later. We run 3 different race teams to complement the motorsport engineering course and the degree course. Our flagship, you could say, is our Formula 3 team, which I race the car. And we've also got our Morgan factory partnership, and we've got our Formula student team as well. And so, again, a comprehensive amount of experience a student can get from the motorsport engineering course.
That's fascinating. And I know we talked previously, Shane, about your, just to go back to your background. And you're not an exclusive driver for UWR. You work on a contract basis for other automotive manufacturers. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, like most sort of pro drivers around my age or come maybe a career path the same as mine, and your bread and butter is as a professional racing driver is your manufacturer work as well, and that's never really stopped my end. And as a contracted driver for UWR, I do other stuff as well for UWR, as in team mentor and manage the race teams as well. But the manufacturer side is as constant as the race team stuff. It goes as far as Aston Martin, a lot of the sort of premium high-end sort of brands as well, like Bentley and Morgan as well. So
that's fantastic. And it must be very encouraging for your students as well. You've got that industry experience. It's not theory that you're applying. It's real life experience that you can convey to them. And I was just wondering, just on that point, is one, how does the academia tally and work with the pro race series? What are the benefits to the students, to the university, to the people involved in that, and also your sponsors and your partners? And how integral is this to the university's commitment to produce graduates that can apply both theory and practice in industry?
So as it currently stands, we over the years we've got closer and closer to the academic side of the course, as in CADed parts, as in final dissertations around the race team or race parts or aero of the car or race car. We aren't actually in the classroom we are still extracurricular as a student would choose to work on a race team and gain that industry experience alongside their degree course. So it's every year we get closer and closer to knitting together a bit better. I think that's something that builds every year, and I think the lecturers as well will see the value in that, and I think every year they sort of integrate something into the course. With obviously the last sort of 16 to 19 months has been a little bit harder and maybe open that gap up a little bit, but I think we've hit the ground running straight away as soon as we could get back into the workshops, and the influx of students wanting to be on the race teams is, I think it's give us a good kickstart straight away to get back to where we were. So
absolutely. And so suppose it's easy to expect that you're drawing students from engineering courses, but I imagine it's more diverse than that. So, what kind of courses are you drawing students from? And supplementary question really for that is, how do you actually select people? Because I imagine you're year on year you're oversubscribed.
Yeah, it's become I think over every year it becomes a bit more of an issue as numbers come up, and they've generally actually gone up and up every year we've done the course. And as the relationship gets stronger with, say, the Morgan, we get more successful with the F3 car and FS. It's been more attractive, and remember, we only don't just open the course up to motorsport engineering. We open it up to all disciplines of engineering at Telford. So we do have a couple of engineers who are aerospace engineers, and we have some mechanical engineers on the car as well. So it does become hard when we have to look at that process of how we get students to the team, and actually dwindle the team down to, say, 25 students per race team. But it's important we have a sense of elite as well. And when we're looking at trying to beat professional teams and race against professional teams and be a factory team, it's important that we do strive to be the best. And I think that's something we've grown into now, where we need to have that interview process, the common sense process, a big application form to fill out, and we do put the onus on the student to do the legwork as well. You come to me and apply and ask for the form. We're not going to give you that, and you've got to want to do it. So, and it does take a lot of their own time as well. It's important that motorsport isn't just a career; it's actually a way of life. Because you are on the road, you're using a lot of your own time and travel. So it is important that they're fully invested in what they're doing. But to be honest, if they're going to come along to Telford and really and do that, normally they're thinking that in early times. So.
Yeah, it's fascinating. If I look back at what was available when I was a nipper, and I don't want to give my age away here, but I can't recall ever seeing a motorsport engineering course, and it's pretty much on my doorstep in Telford. So it's something, without question, I'd have been interested in. But what other courses are available there? You mentioned engineering related courses and aerospace, but what particular courses?
We've obviously we've got our other engineering disciplines. Chemical is at City Campus actually, but we've got mechatronics, telecommunications, mechanical materials as well at Telford here. But as you probably know, we as a race team we have active live sponsors, and we wouldn't be able to run without our sponsors, which we're very grateful for, and offer so much more than just a funding side of things, where they actually sponsors bring a lot of industry experience, talks, lectures, parts, all that sort of thing, and that needs marketing. So we do open our opportunities up to our digital marketing courses at City Campus, and our Formula Student team takes a lot of business case as well. So points are awarded on business cases and design. So we do open it up to business, and we've over the years we've had a good relationship with the business degree studies, and they've been quite good with the Formula Student stuff as well. So it's getting that relationship across. I don't think we're as strong as you should be. I don't think we have really taken full grip of how we integrating into other courses. I think it needs to be better, but I think we always need to be better. So I think we just keep improving with that.
Yeah, I guess there's a big crossover with aerospace in particular. I'm thinking of aerodynamics and things like that. There's got to be a lot of crossover.
There is. Aerospace is a big one. A lot of our fastenings and fixings, especially with the F3 car, are all NAS bolts. So it's all carbon. It's upside down aeroplane wings, if you like. So there is a big crossover. Like I said, we've got a couple of students who are on aerospace and seeing the value in the procedures of how you go preparing a vehicle, how you go about lock wiring, or you reading the NAS bolts. These bolts are the same as the ones you'd see on a jumbo jet door, so it's all relative in that sense. And like I said before, it's being a rounded engineer in whatever way you do it. And again, we offer it to every aspect of engineering. So first off, and again, I think that elite sense, you've got to want to do it. So I think we get the students who do want to do it. So
Yeah, fascinating. For those that haven't been to Telford, University of Wolverhampton, Telford campus, I've been there a number of times, as you know. It's great to go around. It's a podcast here. There's no video, so just tell us what you've got on site in terms of the machinery and what facilities, because it's a lot more than just a few spanners in a car.
Yeah, definitely. We have been accused before of being a little bit too motorsport. As you come in the building, we have got an exploded F1 car mounted on glass, and that's in our main entrance. And we did nickname the main entrance the pit lane because it is a sort of entry into the workshops that are open. Amazing workshops, actually. We're very lucky to have. So we've got glass fronted workshop area where we house the F3 car, our former student team, our Morgan team. And it's a great area. It's F1 spec, if you like, which is very clinical, and that's how we want to train our students. And leading on from that, we've got our machining, we've got our Herco machines, we've got a 5 and 3 axis machine there. And we build all our own parts for the former student car, all our billet stuff. We've got now just up and running an autoclave as well. So our former student car, which is literally just gone out the door, is quite heavy on carbon parts as well. So we've molded a lot of things there. And obviously we've got our additive layer technology upstairs as well, where we print titanium and other metals. Where again, a lot of research going on up there as well. And we do tap into that quite frequently too, for any parts of mainly F3 car and that sort of stuff. But yeah, so it's quite a comprehensive mini F1 experience, if you like.
It is. There can't be many Formula 3 teams with that type of facility. Like you rightly say, it's almost like mini Formula 1. A lot of that facility, a lot of that technology will be a Formula 1 teams. It is worth pointing out, correct me if I'm wrong, you're the only student-led Formula 3 Cup team. You know, the majority of these, you're racing against professional drivers with professional teams.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, one thing we wanted to be good at when we started this was we didn't want to be sending students to professional teams and they're just washing wheels the whole weekend. And as an apprentice, yeah, you do have to wash the wheels. Everyone does, but it's we put our students in all the positions in the team, and as a data engineer, a tyre engineer, a car engineer, and there's no reason why not. And I think one of the things I always stick by is you have to give responsibility to the student. And these are remember, they're not all young students. There's some mature students out there as well, and they're very capable of running things and doing things right. And it's putting the onus on them to be better. And I think that always works, even if a student is a bit wayward. I think if you add a bit of responsibility to someone, it does improve them. And yeah, and that's one thing we want to be. We want to be elite. We want to beat industry leading teams, and not just look like a university, if you like. We want to go out there and do it right, and that's what we try to do. We strive for every time. So,
if we look at the alumni, if we look at people who've passed through the course,
yeah,
you know, are there any highlights? I know people have gone on to be in some very successful roles since taking on the course.
Yeah, we've got, obviously there is some highlights, and it's not just Formula One is a target for all of our students, but we have got a student on Lewis Hamilton's car. Actually, he did start on Bottas's car, and now he's front right wheel and engine dresser for Lewis Hamilton's car, and he actually got handpicked for that job, which was amazing. And it's probably the dream job, and it's probably what he's wanted all of his life. But the system does work, and we've seen this with another lad who came from a data engineer, and he went straight into Williams wind tunnel engineer, and now he's been there for 3 years, and it's gone from strength to strength, really. And I think it's not always an example. The Formula One's an easy example to say. We have a girl called Kate. She ran the F3 team in 2018, and the former student team at the same time, and so she definitely knew what she wanted to do, and she actually turned down a car manufacturer and to go into some other engineering where she would build waste disposal units, but in very intricate ones which went out to the Middle East and things like that. And where she actually knew what she wanted to do, and it was great. And these stories, all these different stories of their journey into a job, but all them techniques, all them preparations, where it readied them for that, and to overcome problems where in the real life, or communication, something basic like that, you assume is a given when you're as old as us. But actually, when you're an engineering student at a campus, your communication isn't so great, and so it's learning them skills as well, and being quite a rounded human being, I think, as well at the same time.
As Joe was saying, Shane, you're the only student-led F3 team. Are you surprised that other universities haven't followed your blueprint?
I'm not surprised, actually, because I know how much work it takes to do it. It is a big job to do. I'm not going to lie. It's important it's done right, and sometimes the crossover for a race team in a university is making that crossover as smooth as possible from the processes the universities run at, financial and things like that. It's not always the easiest thing to do, and my job is partly to do that as well, and make sure that smooth transition in. You don't really see the rumbles affect the race team, and so it's just having that crossover between it. So I've actually ran teams for some smaller college institute at that sort of level, and it is very hard to maintain that in a sense of getting sponsors to believe it or investors to believe in what you're doing, and shaking off that sort of education-based race team thing, where you do see teams out in the paddock, oil coming out the car not starting, they're bumping it down the pit lane, and it does look a bit of a shambles, to be honest, and that's I was very aware of that when we started this, and that's something we didn't want to be doing, and rightfully so. So it's come a long way, and like we said before, the relationships we've built in industry is unbelievable, and I think people are blown away by that, and I think but you have to keep maintaining, you have to keep improving every day, like you do in any sport. But it's keep chipping away and do the best we can.
Yeah, thanks for that, Shane. Final question for me. This is submitted by a listener.
Okay.
Not commercially sensitive. How much does it typically cost to run an F3 team? What's the annual cost of running the project?
An F3 team side of things, it's well controlled because you're actually governed on tyres, and this is why it's just a great championship for us to be in, because it's heavily regulated in a sense of tyres, fuel, and how the ride heights work, and the skid blocks underneath it, and so it's heavily regulated in a sense of the students have to be checking these things. It has to be professional. So but in turn, that keeps the cost down slightly. I'm not saying it's cheap, but anyone could do it. But you can run a race team like this on probably, you can go from 40 to 100,000 a year, depending on how you run it. But the newer the car, the more money you run it, and the more testing you do, the more money it costs. So no different than Formula One, if you like. But we are very grateful for our sponsorship and how we run it, and I try to keep it on a sensible budget. Sometimes, if you're leading a championship, you have no choice but to buy new tyres and keep going like that, and until you hit the top. So it's around sort of 40, 60 to 100 for the championship we're in, and that can quadruple overnight if you want to go anywhere else in the championship. So it's very important that, as I said, we're very grateful for sponsors.
Yeah, just on that, the sponsorship. Anyone listening to this, people or more likely businesses, how do they get involved in the race team? And what do you offer from the commercial side? So,
like I said before, we use our sponsors for not just an investment side of things, not financially. We're very grateful for financial inputs, and that's what keeps things running. But it's important, the student enrichment, that they get lectures out of it. They got industry information, maybe contacts to call about something to do with their dissertation we've had before, and so we can actually link our students to say, okay, this is your dissertation. Speak to these people. They're great. They're willing to help, and they're willing to talk to you about it, and then the students make industry links as well at the same time. We have sponsors that manufacture parts for us, which we can't actually do on site. So specialists like laser cutting and things like that, and it's so easy to do then. And when you got all these outlets, you realise how much money you save as well by doing that. And for sponsors to be involved, I mean, I think it's a sponsor. A company would like to look over the students and see, and there is actually some potential, like we said earlier, about coming from graduating and actually talking to these companies and saying, actually, I'm a good engineer, I can come over. And I think engineering companies who sponsor us would want to see that and say, actually, yeah, come and work for me, or come and have a look at the company and see what it's like. And that's for us, that's like a race win. If we can get students into our sponsors' companies, that's surely a win. So, but yeah, I think I think you can either be a race fan and want to come to races, and we always offer available tickets. It's obviously social media coverage, which some of our companies want, and to be branded next to a university student-led team as well, which is always a good hook, you could say, and it's important that they're involved in that, and there's more value to that as well, not just putting a sticker on a racing car. And we do a lot of other events as well, STEM events. We do a lot of outings in normal time. I don't think our feet touch the ground. We have a lot of static display, a lot of big shows as well, linked to most industries that sponsor us. So yeah, I think we've got a lot to offer in that sense. And again, the end result is a career for a student, hopefully. So
yeah, fantastic. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I hope our listeners have learned something. I know I have. And yeah, great to catch up, and no doubt do it face to face pretty soon.
Thanks for having me.
Another great guest.
Absolutely. Learned so much. As we did last week with Cornish Lithium, it's great to get another insight into an organisation less familiar with. And strongly recommend any organisations, any wealthy individuals, to get in touch with UWR, offer sponsorship, or as Shane suggested, manufacturing skills such as laser cutting, anything like that at all. Please contact us, podcast@mtdmfg.com, and we'll pass on your contact details to Shane.
That's a nice plug, Stu. You don't do that for us. Yeah, moving swiftly on. So if you do like this podcast, and we hope you do, please remember to download the MTD MFG app for exclusive content. We can't cover everything on this podcast, unfortunately, but do go to download it from your app store, the MTD MFG app. It's available in all the usual places, and also don't forget the website, mtdmfg.com. But if we move on with the next story, MSRT. To set up a new facility at Dagenham with Ford. Is this similar to the Venari deal we spoke about a couple of weeks ago?
Yes, it is very similar. So Ford and MSRT, who are the Ford Pro Commercial Vehicles conversion partner, they've announced plans to establish a new £4 million vehicle conversion facility in Dagenham. So, as I say, very similar to based Venari and their partnership with Ford. The new facility is intended to provide work for more than 50 new employers when it comes online in 2022. But this will rise to over 120 new jobs when fully operational. So great to see the renaissance in Dagenham.
Yeah, and GSK unveiled plans, a development plan that could create up to 5,000 jobs. Incredible.
Huge project. So the British pharmaceuticals giant has announced plans to extend its facility in Stevenage, obviously in Hertfordshire, where it currently conducts all its R&D. The plan involves selling off a third of the 92-acre site, which hopes will unlock £400 million of new investment. And Stevenage is already one of GSK's 2 global research and development hubs and hosts the UK's largest work into cell and gene therapy. The development of the new campus, which is set to be built adjacent to its current site, is expected to begin next year. And as you say, GSK says the plan could create thousands of highly skilled jobs, and time frame wise, looking at between 5 and 10 years.
And the next one, Magtec. They've got plans announced for a new factory in Rotherham, not a company I was aware of.
Yeah, the manufacturer employs 125 people at the moment. They make drive systems for electric and hybrid vehicles, including cars, bin lorries, buses and trams. About half its business is retrofitting of vehicles, and the remainder is supplying manufacturers and conversion companies. The firm is leading its existing sites in South Yorkshire. I believe we've got 2 at the moment, taking premises bigger than both combined, and this will aid it to allow it to ramp up production. The investment in the new 65,000 square foot facility could take its total headcount to approximately 155.
Yeah, good news, and probably strong future for the company, and knowing the market sector they operate in. But yeah, that brings the end to this week's podcast. Unfortunately, we don't have time to cover all the stories. So like I said earlier, do please download the MTD MFG app. Go to mtdcnc.com. Follow Jefferson_MFG and at MTDMFG on Twitter. A big thank you to Shane Kelly, fantastic guest. Stuart, thank you for your time as always. But more importantly, thanks to you for listening at home, and we'll see you next week.
To the Great British Manufacturing Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating and a review. You can find us on Twitter using @MTDMFG and @Jefferson_MFG.